So we are back, guys. Sorry for the technical difficulties that we had, but we are now officially back in before the race starts. So Train Game Wow, King David, Norloser, your top 3, Janeji and Calvin, your top 5, just Para, Janny, Rage Hunter, PSI Legends, Bossy Gaming, your top 10. A little bit of a rush to get back on the grid in time, but you know what? Better late than never.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I did witness off stream that off camera the Train Game had a bit of an off in the chicane in the hairpin, but shouldn't affect tire wear too much. Although it might make his tires a bit hot, but
yeah. So the driver's just
he's overshot it.
It's just a disqualification from the formation lap, though. Like, it really doesn't matter. So no one panic there, but here you hear those engine driving, you hear those itchy pedal feet, the driver's watching the lights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights in the air. No red lights. We are green for the Speed Force Racing GP2 Series Imola Grand Prix. King David out to an early lead over Train Game Wow.
Oh,
really muscling around.
Calvin's getting into sandwich, getting squeezed by Janeji and Norloser. I was on board of Calvin there. Janeji goes off.
Mid-pack carnage the whole time.
I know. It was a good start by Johnny. Like, Norloser had a pretty average start, but not as bad as it was in the sprint race.
Side by side now, Janeji and Bossy Gaming for the 6th position, but it's Bossy Gaming who wins out on that little battle. We'll go back and take a look at the battle for the lead. King David and Train Game Wow, your top 2.
Wow, great start by King David. Train Game looking to close back up.
So on board with Train Game, but we saw what I thought was contact behind them, but no side-by-side battle at the moment. But there is an Aston Martin of Janny that's inching a little bit closer, but it might not matter because Train Game Wow side-by-side.
Train Game tries the outside. Ooh, a little bit of contact there, but hopefully nothing that affects King David. Well, damage-wise.
And no surprise that Train Game Wow gets the fastest lap on the first lap. No DRS active yet, but King David doesn't need it because he goes on the inside of turn 1. These two drivers going to be jostling around for position, maybe the whole race. And you know what? I would not complain one bit if that's the kind of race that we're in for today.
Oh, Matty's gone off in the background. Oh, Train Game's looking down the inside, using a little bit of that grass.
Oh, and Train Game spins.
It backfired. It backfired. Not a rare mistake from Train Game.
Now, Tom, I'm not sure what view you had of it, but my camera view, it was a little bit closer in than I would have liked for it to be. So, was there any contact, or did he just get some wheel spin?
No, he was trying to... He went very deep down the inside. Took a little bit of grass along with him, and then he spun again. Oh, no! He's gotten into Para.
Oh, and we had some side-by-side action through the chicane in the 3rd sector. I think it was Janeji that pushed someone wide.
Oh, it was Calvin. Calvin might have been affected by that as well. As Johnny is now on the lead. When you look at that, Norloser's up into 2nd place as well, so it's all happening off camera.
So Johnny, your fastest lap now. Norloser, P2, we ride on board with him as we take a look at Johnny. Of course, King David behind them in P3. Calvin, Janeji, your top 5. So Aston Martin running 1 and 5 at the moment. Rage Hunter in P6. So Rage Hunter, your pole sitter from qualifying, did not have the best of sprint races, so that's why we see him down there in P6. But those two Haas drivers of Calvin and Rage coming into this race, P3 in the constructor standings, trying to get the overall
Train Game's off again. Right in the gravel trap as well. As Bossy just spun out, I was on board with him.
So King David
Oh no! Johnny's off as well!
I was about to say King David's just moved up to P2 because we've got some issues.
PSI hit the wall. Now, did he have damage? It depends on if damage is on, but...
Well, trying to look at Johnny here, and there is no damage on the Aston Martin. You say that PSI Legends went into the wall, so I'm sure that there will be some damage on that Mercedes, but we are back with the battle for the lead. Norloser and King David. King David 119.2, the fastest lap so far, and I'm starting to think that this might be King David's race to lose. He goes on the outside around Norloser, takes the lead from him, but Norloser will not have any of it, and he muscles his way back around the Alpine.
That was brilliant from the two. King David tried to go around the outside. It looked as though he initially took the lead, but what Norloser did then was absolutely brilliant as PSI Legends retires in the pits.
So unfortunate for PSI Legends. He has had some decent pace this season, but not really the results to show, and certainly won't have the results today. So that is the first DNF of the race from the Mercedes. So that leaves Norloser, the lone Mercedes out there, and it's very interesting that the field is now in a Mercedes sandwich with P1 and 16, but King David wants to change that a little bit. He does not want to be chasing that silver arrow all race.
No, but the question is...
Oh, and we got a side-by-side battle with Rage Hunter and Jineji. Sorry about that, Tom, as Rage Hunter actually calms it down, gets into P4, though, but for a brief moment it looked like things were going to get a little bit hairy through those final two corners.
Yeah, it did, because they were so close together, and it's tricky to go wheel to wheel in the said corners, because
you say it's tricky, Tom, but tell that to King David and Norloser, who did the exact same thing as they did last time, going into turn number one, except this time King David takes the lead.
It's becoming the King David and Norloser show. It's just that it's like one moment King David's in the lead, moment Norloser is in the lead, and it goes on.
Well, I would say that everyone else is racing for third, but the fact that King David and Norloser have raced so close for so long has actually brought the rest of the pack to them. Calvin is now less than a second behind Norloser.
I know.
So this is going to be
now we are
very...
on lap 5 of 32. Sorry, Tim.
Yeah, and in pit strategy, it's going to come into a factor here in a handful of laps, but it's going to be very interesting to see what happens down this front straightaway, assuming that Calvin can stay in that DRS range, which I think he is going to be okay. Now, I don't anticipate Calvin making any overtake on these drivers, but I want to see just how much he's able to gain, because Norloser should be getting the DRS off of King David as well. So we'll keep an eye on that interval between Calvin and Norloser as we watch Norloser try to get by King David. Can't do anything with it. So King David almost wondering if maybe he's got a little bit of a straight line set up in that car.
Yeah, it definitely looks like... I think it might be the same... I think... forget what I've said. I'm just trying to get this point as he goes very wide. And that's allowing Calvin and Rage to close in.
So on board with Jineji, you see the two Haas drivers up there and, you know, working together as they always do. Right now looks like Calvin is taking the point for the Haas team, but make no mistake, these two drivers, if they could, they would pretty much just run nose to tail the entire race until they get out to a 20-second or more lead. Then it'd just be a race between them two. Of course, Tom, I believe that you were commentating on a very famous Speed Force Racing race between these two drivers in GP3 at Canada, in which Rage Hunter took the lead by... was it like 300ths of a second?
3,000? Yeah, 200ths of a second. Yeah, it was very close, and it was possible. I think for me, it was one of the best finishes in SFR history. Simple as that. Like two drivers on the same team, going hammer and tongs for the race lead, and obviously for the driver's title. As Matty gets a 3-second penalty. That's the first driver to get penalised this race for multiple warnings.
Yeah, and you know, if you remember last week in Australia, those time penalties, they really came back to bite a few drivers. So these drivers, they're going to have to keep it very careful. Of course, unfortunately for Maddie and the Slayer's sake, they are in 10th place and 13th place respectively, so not that the time penalties were to would matter all that much if they finish in the positions that they're running right now. However, for Matty, it could be potentially detrimental and lose him a point. But look at Janeji getting closer to Rage Hunter. You saw Rage Hunter and Calvin have a bit of a moment through those last set of corners. So then Janeji was able to get closer to Rage, but not able to make a move on him. We'll ride on board with the Aston Martin, see what kind of an advantage he'll get down the straightaway. Should be seeing some DRS, but you got to remember, we're still in the DRS train. So it's pretty much the two Haas drivers and an Aston Martin.
Yeah, definitely. What was I going to say? But anyway, it's all very close between the three. Sorry, I have a pretty bad headache, so I'm not feeling 100% at the moment. But I will carry on.
I will go on record in just saying, Tom, that if you do need to step away, I can take this. Your health is far more important.
Sure.
Do you need to step away, Tom?
For a brief moment, yeah. Hold on.
Okay, yes, you go right ahead. Your health is more important than this race, Tom. I can carry on from this moment. Hopefully, Tom, he will be able to get that headache taken care of. Of course, I think we all have experienced that at one moment or another, so that's never fun. But all the same, what a trooper for being here. But another trooper, Nor Loser, and King David, both of them running nose to tail still. And like we were saying, this has pretty much been the King David and Nor Loser show. And King David actually had that lead extended to about 6 or 7 tenths of a second a lap or so ago. As you see, Nor Loser has cut that down quite significantly and using the DRS to his advantage to try to cut it down even more as they race into turn number 1. But not going to be an overtake this time for the lead. There was an overtake, though, as it looked like Janeji was able to get by Rage Hunter back there for P4. But we have got to stick with this tight battle for the lead as Nor Loser looking on the inside, then goes to the outside. No matter where he goes, though, he cannot get by the Alpine of King David. But now he looks to the outside of this next set of corners. Can't get the job done. And I know what he was thinking there, too. Thinking it's a nice high bank left-hand corner. He might be able to use that outside line, find a little bit of momentum, get a good run off the corner, and set himself up for a pass on King David. As you can see, it did not come to fruition. But that's the mindset that you've got to have when you are chasing the leader. And quite frankly, I think King David's only a little bit faster than Nor Loser. But Nor Loser, he is right there. He is so competitive with this Alpine. So it is these two drivers that are just the class of the field today. 2.8 seconds separating these two from Calvin in P3. Of course, Janeji and Rage Hunter very close to Calvin as well, so they have their own DRS train going on as Nor Loser still trying to use his DRS to get by King David. Won't be happening this time, and now you see King David really pulling out a bigger gap to Nor Loser, so maybe he was saving a little bit of battery. Of course, we don't have access to that information unless we look on the steering wheel from our onboard views. That's really the only hint that we can get from from what the driver's doing as far as his ERS management goes. Of course, what you saw from King David's perspective, nothing out ahead. That's exactly what you want to see as a race car driver because it might mean that you're in the lead. Let's take a look, though, at the Aston Martin of Janeji, who is in a Haas sandwich. Calvin in third, Rage Hunter in fifth, Janeji the cream in the middle, so to speak. Had a brief moment of looking on the outside of Calvin, but not able to do anything with it. Might have a bit of a run on him, though, out of this chicane. So let's see if he can do anything. Not this time, so he's going to have to wait for the DRS. Now, one thing that Tom mentioned earlier was that Train Game WoW specifically, before he had his issues, is very strong out of that final chicane. And you saw that time, Calvin was strong out of that chicane. Janeji, unfortunately, was not. So that chicane is a make or break point, it seems, at this track. You wouldn't think that it would be all that difficult to take when you look at it firsthand. You think, okay, you can just make a nice straight line through that chicane and then just stay within the track limits. But it's got a nice little sausage curve on the end, which likes to upset the car if you touch it, and it's just such a tight little corner. And if you're side by side going into the corner, well, of course somebody's going to lose out. So it really is a crucial part of this racetrack. And you saw that Janeji, in the first 2 sectors, he is able to gain so much on Calvin. He's practically to his gearbox, but you might see him lose it out of that chicane this time. We'll ride on board with him so you can get a perspective of just how much speed he's losing. But look at that, Calvin had a big moment. And Calvin almost lost P3 to Janeji before we got a chance to see. That time around, a lot better exit from Janeji, but Calvin was still a little bit faster. Lap 11 of 32 now, waiting to see when these drivers are going to pull into the pits. Almost to our halfway point, but not quite yet. Lap 12 of 32 now. So Janeji using the DRS and trying to go to the outside of Calvin. Side by side, some contact maybe. Does Janeji get the job done? No, he doesn't. Calvin clears him. But that was some great, hard, fierce racing from the Haas and Aston Martin drivers there. But this has allowed Rage Hunter to get a little bit closer to Janeji in P4. So now it's Calvin, Janeji, and Rage Hunter 3, 4, and 5. Which is pretty much the same. The only thing is it's so much closer. One thing I've noticed about Rage is he's not as consistent as he needs to be, because when we first joined this battle, he was very close to them. Then he lost some ground. Then he just gained ground again. Now he lost ground again. So Rage Hunter struggling around Imola for consistency, but when he is on it, he has pace. Make no mistake about that. He is our pole sitter from the qualifying session. 0.004 of a second quicker than Train Game WoW. It was a 1:15.996 that Train Game WoW set, so he is definitely fast around here. So now we're seeing some drivers at the tail end of the top 10 pick up some time penalties or jostle around for position. Maybe a little bit of both. But we're also seeing Janeji make a move on Calvin for P3, and this time he's on the inside. He's going to have the preferred line. Will he be able to clear the Haas? Maybe some contact, but he does move Janeji up into P3. That has been what seems like 10 laps in the making when it's probably closer to about 3 or 4. Bossy Gaming 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Unfortunate for him. He's running down there in the 11th position. So Bossy not scoring points at the moment, and now has put his race in jeopardy of not scoring points at all. So Calvin and Rage Hunter 4th and 5th now after Janeji got by Calvin, and this has brought Dye into the picture. Dye, 12-lap-old hard tires. So I'm starting to think that maybe those hard tires on the Ferrari are starting to come into play, because as you know, the hard tires really take a lot of time to reach the optimal temperature, but I think Tom might be back with us.
Yeah, I just, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm back. I, honestly, I was talking about what you were, I was on to what you're saying about dying. And honestly, I'd argue be in the strongest position for a strategic position for a podium, because even though he did start on the hards, which, as you mentioned, it takes time. They take time to warm up, but if the hards now at their optimal grip and the mediums are just about fading.
So if you're Dye, what are you thinking, Tom? Are you thinking hard to mediums, hard to softs? If a safety car comes out, how does that change your perspective?
Don't know, like, you'd need, like, ideally I'd go meet hard mediums. Like, the softs, I don't think the softs last very long around this track. Like, they only last, like, what, 5 or 6 laps? So I'd say it's a primary strategy, go hard mediums.
Well, we've got the Slayer on 11-lap-old softs right now in P10. So the softs
Wow.
can last a decent amount of time. The question is, though, it's not just about the softs lasting. It's about, are they a good race tire? Because I think we actually talked about this last week in Australia, that there's some tracks like Austria that the soft tire, if I remember correctly, that Austria was not a good track to have the soft tire as a race tire, because it just is better suited as a qualifying tire. But of course, that just depends on your setup, driving style, track, tire compounds, etc. There's a lot of variables that really play into that. But again, it's part of what makes Speed Force racing and sim racing,
Exactly.
just a little bit more nail biting, I guess you could say.
Yeah, definitely.
Could not find my metaphor or my analogy, my comparison, whatever you want to call it. I can't find my words. See, after the 11 lap sprint race, I'm just burned out now. It's lap 15 of 32. We're just now about to reach our halfway point, so we've still got to tough it out for the rest of this race. But at least it has been no shortage of action prior to the pit stop shaking things up.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're at the more strategic stage of the race now. I think. Oh, yep. Oh, shoot. Yellow flag somewhere. And that's the Slayer going off.
So one thing that is new this season for F1 2022 is that when there's a safety car, it doesn't actually tell us there's a safety car. It just says that there's a yellow flag in sectors 1, 2, and 3. So you saw it was sector 1 and 2 that had the yellow flag. So thankfully no safety car there. As we watch the leader, King David, 15 laps on those medium tires, 8.6 seconds ahead of Dye, as Norloser has just pitted and he's out of the pits and on track now. He went for a fresh set of hard tires, which really, seems to be the popular opinion here. So Norloser in P3, 20 seconds or so behind Dye, so that's approximately 28, 29-ish seconds after you do the math behind King David. So King David has got a free pit stop right now.
Oh, he has. Now, the question is, do you think it'd be worth coming in this lap? I personally would, considering that the guys behind are on hards. You may as well come in now, and he does.
Yep, that's exactly what he did, Tom. So King David, having that free pit stop, decides to take advantage of it, and that really is a good decision, Tom, because even though we've seen how fast King David is here today, Norloser, he cannot let Norloser pass him. Now, I know we said that King David had a free pit stop and Dye passed him, but again, Dye has not pitted yet. He will still have to pit, and then King David should cycle back to the lead after that. But there you see King David out on track. How much further ahead of Norloser is he? Is that 6 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds? It's dropping down. Norloser, he is closing in on him, but he can't quite see him. He can't see him, so it is about 3 second gap that King David has over Norloser now.
You're right. Now, I think it's hard to say, but I think Norloser might have the better setup when it comes to the hard tires. But well, obviously, it all comes down to tire pressures in the end. But you can see how much time he's gaining, though.
Yeah, so King David,
17.9
seconds behind Dye now, 18 seconds behind him. Waiting on when Dye is going to make his pit stop. Of course, you see that it's not going to be this time. And Tom, I think he's trying to hold out for the softs. I really think that's what's happening. We saw him being the only driver in the sprint race to take the soft compound tire, and he's staying out here on these old hard tires. I think he's going to try to make the softs work and take him to the end. Meanwhile, looks like Train Game Wow is having a bit of a battle with Bossy Gaming as he gets his way into the 9th position. Train Game Wow, a decent recovery after a very, very disappointing start to this race. He was in the top 3, spun out very early on. He's been playing catch-up the rest of, pretty much ever since. So finds his way into P9 at the moment. Not sure if he'll be able to improve any further, but all the same, a points day is important for the McLaren driver. So no battles really going on at the moment beyond this between Bossy Gaming and Train Game WoW. 14-lap hard tires for the both of them. But if you take a look at the time penalties, Bossy Gaming has racked up a whopping 9 seconds worth of time penalties. 3 seconds for Maddie, 9 seconds for KXI, and then 3 for the Slayer respectively. So all of these drivers are definitely going to be having their finishing positions affected by those penalties, and the race isn't over yet, so they might pick up a few more. For their sake, let's hope not. Train Game WoW pulling away from Bossy Gaming now, flirting with being over a second ahead of the AlphaTauri. Not doing much to really cut into Para's gap. Of course, Para, he's got 4-lap-old hard tires, so slightly fresher rubber, or actually more than just slightly fresher rubber, there could be playing an advantage into the Alpine driver's hands. But there you see Train Game actually finding about a 10th of a second or so. So maybe I spoke too soon. Let's take a look at just Para here for just a moment to get an idea of what's going on with him. And it might just be the fact that those tires have not gotten up to temperature yet. Meanwhile, Dai still leads over King David and Norloser, your top 3. And it looks like Tom is back with us once again.
Sorry, I went to lose time.
So, Tom, since you are just now joining us, you can see Dai and King David still your top 2. King David 16 seconds behind Dai, and the more that we go and the longer that Dai stays out on his hard tires, the more that I am convinced that he's going to try to hold out for the soft tire compound, which we saw the Slayer do about 11 or 12-ish laps on the soft compound tires, so that should suggest that if he pitted this time, he would theoretically be able to make it to the end. Of course, I feel like Dai has got a little bit more practice with the soft tire around here than a few of us. Maybe me, considering I don't race and I don't practice this season. But I digress. Dai, he did choose the soft tire compound in the sprint race, like we said. So that just tells me that he's been experimenting with it a little bit, and that he feels confident that he can get him some results.
Definitely. I mean, obviously, we did, as you noted, Slayer did obviously do 10 laps. What was it? 11 laps? 11 laps on the mediums? No, on the soft, sorry.
It was the Slayer.
That. Yeah, I know. But I think if I would die, I would come in at about lap 23, 22, 23. So I can make that soft strategy work, but...
And that might be what he's doing, but the thing that concerns me, Tom, is that we are seeing that time interval drop significantly. King David is now only 14 seconds behind Dai, and about a lap and a half ago, it was 16 seconds. So the longer he stays out there, the more time he is going to lose. Granted, if he had pitted a lap after King David, then he couldn't have made the soft tire strategy work. So he has to be confident that when he pits, he can take those soft tires to the end. And it's just such it's such an evil game sometimes to play in your head of, if I pit, I'm going to lose the lead, but I still have to. And that's what Dai is dealing with right now. He knows that time interval. He knows he doesn't have a free pit stop. He knows he's not going to exit the pits in the lead. But at the same time, he is committed to this strategy. He's made his bed. Now he's got to lay in it.
Oh, he has. And if he does go on to softs, he's going to have 10 laps to get past people, and he has to do it quick. But I'd say if he does come in, I think he'd come around come out about P4, P5, maybe P6, maybe P7, I'm not sure, but I think he's definitely in a comfortable position, as far as I'm concerned, to get a lower to get in the get points anyway.
Well, I feel like he would
providing
be able
he
to,
keeps it on.
Yeah, I feel like he would be able to exit the pits in the top 5 if he's able to pit sooner rather than later. But one driver who I know is trying to get into the top 5 is Mansell in P6 at the moment. He had that gap to Rage Hunter down to about 0.4 of a second, and now for a brief moment it was at 0.3. But it's very much fluctuating as Rage Hunter is finding some speed where Mansell is not. But this could be a pretty hefty battle between the two to finish it off.
You're right about that.
Of course, Calvin, he's in P7. So, Calvin, his thought process right now is get to the back of Mansell and make life difficult so that life is easier for my teammate.
Definitely, mate. Dives in. Why we have a white screen, I don't know. Yep, you're right. He's gone onto softs.
Now let's see where he's going to exit the pits. King David and Norlusa, they've already passed him. I think Janeji's going to as well.
I think Calvin's going to follow through as well.
And it is P7. My goodness.
Wow.
But,
good start for Die.
But if those soft tires are as advantageous as he's hoping for, he could at least get a top 5 out of this.
Oh, definitely, mate. Definitely.
So we will have to monitor his progress, but at the moment we're going to have to keep a close watch on Mansell, Rage, and Calvin, because Mansell was able to get by Rage Hunter on that last lap. Calvin racing in P6 now because of Die. So Die is right behind them and not yet really up to temperature with those tires. So it's going to take him about a lap or so to really catch them and fight, assuming that he'll be able to, which I don't see why he wouldn't. The soft tires, even if they're not the ideal tire, they're not a bad tire. And the fact that he has got fresh softs and the guys ahead of him are on the slowest compound tire, it does bode well for him. Granted, it just seems today that the medium to hard strategy or hard to mediums were the best strategy.
Definitely. She got on to lap 24.32, so about, 7 laps to go? Or 9 laps?
Well, it appears so, Tom, but apparently you missed the second race of the season where Smithy had to correct me because I said that someone was a second quicker when he was actually a 10th quicker.
Yeah.
So you can't trust my math, and that's what I tell you every time. You can't trust my math. Rage Hunter, though, still trying to chase down Mansell for that 4th position, but Die has gotten close to Calvin now, so we'll ride on board with the Ferrari and see if he's going to be able to really gain significantly on this Haas driver. But remember the chicane that's coming up, Tom, that you mentioned. We saw that Train Game WoW is strong out of that chicane, and we've seen that Calvin is strong out of that chicane. We've seen Rage Hunter is hit or miss. Let's see how Die is out of this chicane. Well, those soft tires definitely helping him there.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
He's looking on the outside.
Going one way. Die's trying it. He's trying it. Side by side. Keep it clean, boys.
Just a little bit of contact, but no harm, no foul. Calvin Racing is able to hang on to the 6th position for at least another corner.
Yep. And now that
is over because Die has got by him.
Yeah, he has.
So move Die up into P6. His next victim, Rage Hunter, in P5. And we are seeing, Tom, just how strong these soft tires are on this Ferrari. You've got to think, if a safety car had came out right before he pitted, he would be a major threat. Of course, everyone else would be on soft tires as well, so the field would be equalized. Let's be real. All the same, you got to think, if Die had the track position, if he had been where King David was when he pitted, then Die could really be strong on these softs.
Yeah, you're right. I think Dye's merely just biding his time. Oh! Rage Hunter getting a little bit of a tank stuff heading into that chicane, but no harm, no foul.
So going to be lap 27 of 32 here. Or 26 of 32, rather, as King David had already crossed the line, so my apologies there. And there goes Dye trying to make a move around Rage Hunter. Is he going to be able to get the job done, though? It's a three-car battle for the fourth position between Mansell, Rage Hunter, and Dye. And Rage Hunter goes underneath Mansell, can't get the job done. Mansell hangs on to P4, and Dye, he's just waiting for an opportunity to get by either of these drivers. Dye looking on the inside, can't make the move done. Rage Hunter gave him room, though. That's some respect to your competitor.
Brilliant. Whoa, he's going to try the outside, though.
Side
and
by
he's
side.
Got him.
And Dye uses that momentum and those fresh softs. That was
Must
a
have
great
learned
move.
a thing or two from a certain teammate last season. But from last season, it's season to GP4. But jokes aside, that was a great move.
Yeah, it was a really good move from Dye there in the Ferrari. But now look at the two cars that are nose to tail once again, the Haas drivers. And
yes.
Normally they would want to be nose to tail while leading this pack. Not looking like that's going to be the case today in Imola. But all the same, they are working together, just trying to maximize their points haul for the season. Here is your leader, King David, lap 27 of 32. So as these laps are winding down, it is very much looking like his race to lose. Between him and Norloser, they have been the fastest drivers in the field. King David just has to keep it clean for a handful of more laps.
Yeah, King David has done such a good job this race. Not only keeping hold of the lead, but not only with his battles of Norloser, but just keeping that, building that gap. Got it absolutely spot on strategy as well. So if he wins this, it'll be very deserved.
And if I remember correctly, King David was not able to be with us last week in Australia. So even though he comes into this race third in the driver's points, you got to think what could have been if he'd been able to race in Australia. Could he have walked away with some points? Could he have maybe held on to his second place that Mansell took from him because of his own podium in Australia? But all the same, it's starting to look like maybe that doesn't matter as much because King David is out here dominating this race.
Absolutely. We're still on board with Dye and Mansell. He's now on the back of Mansell. And the coattails of that Williams. He's going to have DRS, but the question is he going to use any of his battery to properly close in?
It does not look like Dye is doing that, but he has closed in a little bit using the DRS and slipstream. Of course, that is to be expected. One thing you've got to remember, though, Mansell, on those 13-lap-old hard tires, we were seeing around lap 12 is when the hard tires really found a little bit of speed and, I guess, their second life, you could say. So maybe that's what's going on with Mansell right now is maybe his tires have just got their second wind.
Yeah, you might be right about that because he is, whilst Dye is slowly closing in, at the same time, Mansell is doing so well with keeping him behind. And I think it might be frustrating Dye a little bit.
Well, I think that a lot of things are probably frustrating Dye, considering the fact that he led the race for a handful of laps and just did not have the late race safety car that he needed to retain that track position. So he finds himself rejoining the race in P7. He's worked his way up to P5, very respectively so, and could be getting a P4 here from Mansell before too long. But the thought has got to still be in his head, you know, if he had been able to get a safety car, would he have been able to go toe-to-toe on with King David and Norloser and Janeji for those top three spots on presumably everyone being on soft tires?
That's a good point there.
All the same, it's looking like while Mansell's tires have their second wind, Dye's are starting to give up the ghost a little bit. So just a recap on the soft tires, we've seen drivers take it about 11 laps or so in this race. Of course, taking tires a certain amount of laps doesn't necessarily mean you're getting the optimal performance out of those tires. All the same, it's quite obvious that Dye has committed to taking these tires to the end, and no reason he should, considering it's lap 29 of 32. But the big question is, will he be able to squeak into that
out.
P4? And now with Bossy out, is that going to be a late race safety car? No. So no surprise safety car like we had in Australia last week.
Nope.
So lap 30 of 32, 3 laps to go. There is Norloser P2 chasing this man right here, P1 of King David.
Going on board, still on board with Dye, as have done for the past couple of laps. He's going to try the outside. Is he going to make the move stick? Yes, he is.
Oh, and Mansell spins.
Mansell spotted his own.
Into the gravel trap goes Mansell, and that put an end to what could have been a very stunning battle for fourth.
Yeah, it's a shame because there was no contact whatsoever from what I was seeing. But it was just... Again, it must have been another one of those.
And it really is a shame because Mansell, he needs himself some good finishes. He was not expecting a podium in Australia, but he was able to get it. And that was after an abysmal race at Saudi Arabia the week prior. So Mansell having an up and down season. And we're only in round 4. So that is really a shame for the Williams driver. Of course, it's not all over. He is still in P7. But the only thing that I could take out of it, Tom, was that it looked like he just got on the throttle a little too early and got some wheel spin. Because I went on board with him right as it happened, and that's about the time that the car rotated into the gravel trap.
Yeah, it was. And it is easy to lose these cars, so you have to be careful of not only how you manage it on throttle, but also how you drive these cars. Like, not only that, but also where you place them on track as well.
So Dye and Rage Hunter, they're having a battle for the 4th position here. So it looks like this strategy is going to be able to get Dye a top 5 finish. That's not guaranteed, but it is looking very good. The question is, though, is that going to be P4 or P5? Because Rage Hunter looking very strong on those 15-lap-old hard tires now that the soft tires are slowly starting to give up the ghost. It's lap 31 of 32, so just 2 laps remaining. There is your leader, King David. He is in the 3rd and final sector. Out of the final corner, white flag this time. 1 more lap to go. King David, a strong qualifying run, but not the pole sitter. And then, in the sprint race, a strong sprint race, not the race winner. But then when the race starts, the actual Grand Prix, he takes the lead from Train Game Wow before they get to turn number 1, and he more or less just has not looked back since. Him and Norloser traded positions for a while, and King David had to play a little bit of catch-up to the Ferrari of Dye when he decided to stay out long on hard tires. But King David was able to cycle back to the lead, and now you see him trying to drive this car home to a win here in the Imola Grand Prix. Just 1 more sector to go. He doesn't have to push. He doesn't have to fight. He just has to keep a steady, consistent pace in the 3rd and final sector now, and it has been a very impressive race from this driver in the Alpine. Norloser, he can do nothing but watch as the Alpine driver disappears ahead of him. He's done everything that he can, but he's going to have to settle for P2 because out of the final corner, it's the Alpine of King David taking the win in Imola. Norloser in P2, Janeji in the Aston Martin celebrating a P3. Dye going to come home in
Great
P4,
race.
but just barely over Rage Hunter, who was not able to catch that Ferrari in the closing laps. P6 is Calvin, so the Haas drivers 5 and 6 trying to maximize their points haul as best as they can each and every race. That is their goal. Mansell, after a disappointing spin, should be bringing it home 7th, and we have got a Red Bull off the track. That might have been KXI. I believe he was a lapped car, so no change there as far as the finishing order.
No, that was a great race. I think for me, driver of the day would either have to go to King David or Die. Like, King David obviously was very close to train game in quali, the sprint race. But as soon as you mentioned, as soon as he got that lead and came on top of his battles of Norloser, King David just never looked back. Whereas Die, like, going on to softs and having that spin late on in the sprint race looked like a massive worry for him ahead of the race. But what a strategic masterclass by him. But anyway, I'll let you. I'm gonna head off for a bath because my head still hurts a little bit, not too much, but yeah, I'll let you conduct interviews, and yeah, hopefully I'll see you when I next, see you.
All right, well, you take care of yourself, Tom. Just make sure that you get that headache looked after because we got to make sure that you stay healthy.
Yeah, man.
So your official finishing results, or unofficial rather, officially unofficial. I like that term. Your officially unofficial finishing results for the Speedforce Racing GP2 Series Imola Grand Prix is King David in first, Norloser in second, Janeji in third, Calvin Racing in fourth, fifth is Die, sixth is Rage Hunter, Train Game Wow in seventh, eighth is Just Para, Mansell in ninth, 10th is Janny, Maddie in 11th, 12th is Sonicock the Slayer in 13th, 14th is KXI, 15th is Bossy Gaming, PSI Legends in the 16th position. We'll see which drivers want to join and talk to us. We do have Janeji, our third place finisher, in here. We'll see if Norloser and King David will join as well. Otherwise, we will just talk to Janeji. But we'll give the other two drivers a brief moment to join in here. And we'll give all the viewers a brief moment to, I guess, try to take in and remember what you just saw. Because between the sprint race and the Grand Prix, it was action-packed, but I think that we are going to start our interviews now. So for those of you that's in here, and I believe it's just Janeji at the moment, please make sure you've allowed your voices to be shared. If you don't know how to do that, go over to the party settings, click Always Allow, and let me know when you're ready.
All right, good evening. I'm ready.
All right, Janeji. So, a very strong result for you today in P3. It looked like you had a strong car in qualifying at first, and then obviously was not able to get the pole, but doesn't matter because you are walking away with a podium, and we saw you celebrating. So just put it into words. How does it feel?
It feels awesome. I would never imagine that I would finish in GP2 on third place. I'm really happy for it because when I was going to the race, I was expecting I can finish like somewhere on P6 if it's everything great, but I managed to get on P3, which I'm really happy, and I definitely take it. So, and also I enjoyed a lot of battles today. Most of them were in the sprint. So yeah, it was a great evening for me.
And how did the sprint race affect your strategy for the race, if at all? Because this is the first time that the GP2 series has been able to do the sprint races, and so it's a little bit of a different perspective than what we're used to.
Yeah, it's completely different. Like I was never so careful in race when I was in sprint race. So you really need to prepare for yourself, even like that you can't. Sorry, just there was a mistake just in the headphones. So it's completely different because in qualifying you don't need to pressure yourself so much, so you can just push as much as you can to the sprint race. But in the sprint race, you just need to control yourself.
Well, I'm not sure how much of it you saw, but the top three certainly was not very controlled in the sprint race. But all the same,
I didn't.
yeah. But all the same, congratulations, Janeji, on your top three finish here today in Imola.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, and thank you for the invite.
And do we have Norloser or King David in here by chance? Looks like we don't, so looks like that's all the time that we have. But a big thank you to everyone who watched. Oh, no, Norloser is here. Perfect. Norloser joins just in time. So, Norloser, please, before we start the interviews, make sure that you've allowed your voice to be shared. If you don't know how to do that, go over to the party settings, click Always Allow, and let me know when you're ready.
Let me check. Always allow. Yeah, I think it's okay. Allow your voice to be shared. Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, Norloser, it is P2 for you today. One spot short of what you wanted, I know. But tell us what it was like battling with King David in the early stages of the race.
Yeah, I already noticed in the sprint race that he was running a lot less downforce, so it was quite hard to just race him and overtake him. But yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with P2. I think with around the same pace, but when I lost DRS, I was pretty much settled for P2.
Do you think that there's anything else that you could have done to maybe put yourself in a better position to run down King David?
Yeah, maybe try and use a low down for setup, or maybe fight him a little bit harder in the early stage of the race. But I think in the end, the end result wouldn't be different because when you run a lot less downforce, you have a lot more ERS to play with. So in the end, I don't think the end result will have changed a lot.
Well, all the same, you ran a very great race, and you made it very entertaining between you and King David. Congratulations on your second place finish.
Yeah, thank you.
And with that, that is all the time that we have. But thank you to everyone who watched. Thank you to all the drivers that raced with us. Congratulations to our podium finishers. And until next time, good morning, good evening, good day, good night, wherever you are in the world. Have fun, and goodbye.